Now, this is Bulls and Bears. Iran thumbs its nose at the world, defying its nuclear deadline. But is Wall Street betting this will finally be a big-time wake-up call? Why it could be a good thing for stocks, and terrorism still the biggest worry for our nation. Democrats now say they're the best party for national security. Does the stock market agree? Hi, everyone. I'm Brenda Butner. This is Bulls and Bears. Iran's nuclear defiance. Will it serve as a wake-up call for the free world and actually be good for America and our markets? Let's find out in the trading pit.
What I think is really good is the fact that the market was up big this week in the face of Iran, because what they're doing is a form of terrorism. And if terrorism works, that means our market is down. It didn't work, so that's a good kudo thing for America and American investors.
I don't know, Gary B. Do you think the market was really up on Iran?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess according to Charles' premise, that accounted for all 83 of the points.
No, it just wasn't down. It just wasn't down. My main point is that their saber rattling didn't hurt our markets.
What do you think?
Well, I don't think it helps one bit. Can you imagine if Iran wasn't the problem, how much higher the market would be if we didn't have that uncertainty? But the fact of the matter is that we do need to put them to the wall and call their bluff. Like Tobin says, they go boo, and the oil market goes up another $1. We can't live with that, but it doesn't matter. The rest of the world has already decided not to be on our side, and it's just to thumb their noses to us. So they're going to get a bomb, and we're going to have very little choice but to do something in a military fashion, and that's not good.
The threat of a terrorist attack, still the nation's #1 worry. And as the midterm elections start to heat up, Democrats are saying they're the best party for national security. What does Wall Street say? Well, the Bulls and Bears are back, along with Democratic strategist Susan Estrich. Susan, welcome.
Thank you.
Why should Wall Street, which was the target on 9/11, believe the Dems are the best party to fight terror?
Well, because they should give up on the Republicans, because they've given them 6 years, and what have they got?
At the end of the day, Wall Street does not believe the Democrats can do the job.
Okay, Tobin, do you?
Well, I hate to play politician here, but Charles is right. I mean, the bottom line is, where's the attack? We've probably stopped 15 or 20 we haven't heard of, and I think the idea from the public would be that, geez, the Republicans have sort of, made a pile of a lot of things recently, but there's one area that they understand that we are going to be proactive and not reactive, and that is in the going after terrorists where they live, not getting them here. And I think Republicans are still going to hold the cards.
Yeah, and Gary B., if you look at how stocks have done since 9/11, you can certainly say that Wall Street thinks that the GOP should be the party for national security.
As Patrick would be quick to point out, the bottom was only about 2 weeks after that. So, yeah, we've gone up. I guess to Susan's point, I kind of think getting rid of Hussein was a pretty good thing. Now, you can say, afterwards has kind of been bungled, but it's tough putting a democracy in place overnight. I mean, that's definitely going to take years.
Is the United Nations more corrupt than Enron on its worst day? Good morning, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto. Let's get the bottom line, shall we? From Ben Stein and John Layfield and Meredith Whitney, along with Lenny Dykstra, of course, the former baseball all-star and great now entrepreneur and columnist for TheStreet.com. Ellis Hennigan is here as well, the Newsday staff columnist. And we've got Claudia Rosette, the journalist in residence at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Jim Rogers, Greg Hymetz will be back next week. Well, Claudia, the UN more corrupt than Enron? What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. It's corrupt in more dimensions. It's corrupt over far more time. It's unaccountable in a way that Enron certainly wasn't. It's corrupt in a dangerous sense that Enron was not. Enron was simply criminal. The United Nations is politically, morally, and financially corrupt.
And you have also said that if you're just comparing dollars, Enron is relative chump change by comparison.
Yeah, if you actually look at the extent of simply the oil for food scandal, where in the skimming, scamming, smuggling, Saddam got away with at least 17 billion, quite possibly more. There were also payoffs that went forward through that, and knock-on effects. Then you start factoring in, right now we have this week yet another scandal breaking in the UN Procurement Department, which spends your tax dollars. We've had the money wasted on things like UNIFIL in southern Lebanon, which was costing $100 million a year to do what? To watch Hezbollah dig fortifications and bring in arms. We have corruption going on in UN peacekeeping operations in Africa. The extent of it is just monumental. It's extremely hard to get some final total figure because the UN is extremely opaque, doesn't really account in full for what it does.
I think the United Nations needs to be thrown out of our country. The sanctions would have never worked in Iraq because $20.3 billion by some estimates, Claudia says about $17 billion, whatever it is, was given to Saddam Hussein while he was still in power. That money right now is being used by these terrorists to kill our boys and girls.
Has the UN done anything good ever?
I just said.
Come on.
Absolutely, but the important thing is don't shoot the messenger. A lot of the problems are the governments.
But now, in all fairness, Meredith, in all fairness, they go over and they take Hezbollah aside and say Israel shouldn't be killing civilians, while Hezbollah is surrounding themselves by civilians. They've taken the side of terrorist dictators over the Western world.
You know what? I feel like I've got to give all of you guys a hug. I mean, the world is a dangerous place.
Yeah, please don't.
There are difficult things out there. Sadly, everyone doesn't agree with us on everything. We've got to have a body that's going to resolve these things. Yes, it's got problems, but boy, the notion of giving up on it or throwing it out, you know what? Let's clean up the corruption where we find it.
Well, Homeland Security Chief Michael Chertoff wants to share detailed information on airline passengers to prevent terror, but now some privacy laws won't allow it. Would giving up the right to privacy for the right to fly save lives and money? It's time to go head-to-head. And for that, we've got Ben Stein and Meredith Whitney and John Layfield. Also joining us now, our special guest star, ACLU member, Michael Gross. Michael, what do you think of that? Give up a little to save a life.
What the administration and Homeland Security Secretary Chertoff need is a lesson in constitutional law. They have been speaking with forked tongue.
We've got to get in our heads that common sense requires that we start profiling passengers, that we don't make it seem as if a little old lady from a small town in Minnesota is as likely to be a terrorist as a young man with an Arab name. We've just got to behave sensibly about this. We've let political correctness rule the roost in terms of airline security for far too long, and we've got to get that thrown out right away. But as to Mr. Gross's point that we should follow the laws, absolutely, without question.
Does that sometimes involve, though, John, tapping phones prematurely ahead of a warrant?
I think we have to do what we have to do. I think rights go outside when you're dealing with live bodies that could be dead.